She didn't leave without making a noise. She took a lawyer, a forensic accountant, and 3 years' worth of evidence that no one was supposed to find with her when she left. Christine Brown did everything right for 27 years. She followed this man across 4 states, raised his kids, smiled for the cameras, and told the world that sharing a husband was a blessing. She thought it was true. Or she had to. And maybe, for a long time, they were the same thing. But the morning she walked into that Clark County courtroom and sat down across from Kody Brown, the man she loved, the man who texted her what's for dinner 3 days after she gave him an 8-page letter about how she was going to disappear. Everything this family had spent years carefully hiding walked in right behind her. No one told anyone about a $4,000 account. Emails that said she would believe anything you told her. A 5th account. And a 12-year-old girl who made her father birthday cards and left them on the kitchen counter for 3 years because she didn't know when he would come home. This trial was more than just the end of a marriage. The story was over, and it was never completely true. And by the time the verdict came down, no one in that courtroom, neither the lawyers, the judge, nor even Kody Brown, who was sitting there with his hands flat and his face blank, was ready for what it said. Stay right here. What you're about to hear isn't what the show wanted you to know. The bailiff tells everyone to be quiet, and for a moment, just one short, fragile moment, the whole courtroom breathes together. There were 26 people in the gallery, 2 legal teams, 1 judge, and 2 people who had promised to build a life together in front of a spiritual congregation. They all breathed the same recycled courthouse air and smelled the same old coffee, industrial cleaner, and quiet desperation that seeps into the walls of every room where families come to divide what they built. Christine doesn't reach for her glass of water. She doesn't change her blazer. She sits very still, as if she practiced this moment in front of the mirror so many times that it became real. It became muscle memory somewhere between the therapy sessions, the sleepless nights, and the morning she finally called Sandra Vance and said, "I'm ready." Kody moves around in his chair. It's a small move, not much. But Christine spent 27 years learning how to read his body language. For example, she learned how he rolls his left shoulder when he's defensive, how his chin drops when he's thinking, and how his hands flatten on a surface when he wants to look relaxed but isn't. She didn't mean to, but she made a list of everything, just like you do with the sounds of a house you've lived in for a long time, like the creak of a certain stair or the rattle of a certain window. She doesn't look at him, but she did see. And Sandra Vance, calmly and efficiently sorting papers at the plaintiff's table like a woman who has already won this case in her head, looks at Christine once and gives her the smallest nod. We're all set. Because Kody Brown didn't expect Christine to be ready. There is a certain echo in the hallway outside courtroom 3B. Every footstep comes back to you a little late and a little empty, as if the building is processing what just happened inside. People move through it differently after Meri's testimony. They move more slowly and quietly, like people do when something that can't be changed has been said out loud. A junior reporter from a local news station is typing so fast that she keeps making mistakes and having to delete them. A paralegal from Richard Coles's firm is walking to the elevator with the kind of urgency that comes from needing to make a phone call before anyone sees their face. 2 women from the gallery, who didn't know each other before today, are standing near the restroom door and having a quiet, intense conversation, like people who just saw the same thing and need to make sure it was real. It was true. What Meri Brown said was what she said. Sworn. In writing. Robyn was sitting 12 feet behind her in a caramel trench coat, watching every word land. And now Meri is in a small room off the main hallway, sitting alone with a cup of water she hasn't touched, staring into the distance with the look of someone who just jumped from a very high place and is still processing the fact that they did it. Her hands are steady. If she's being honest, that surprises her. She thought they would shake. She was ready for the adrenaline crash, the second-guessing, and the voice in her head that told her to stay quiet, small, and still for years. But her hands are still. And for the first time in a long time, something else is too. Something that feels like her, but only a little bit, and without warning. She puts the letter down on the railing in front of her. Not right away. Not with a lot of drama. She puts it down the way someone who has been carrying something for a long time would. Carefully, on purpose, and with the quiet relief of someone who has finally found a surface strong enough to hold it. The courtroom stays still. Judge Dawson is looking at Christine with a blank, calm, and unreadable expression that she has been working on for 19 years on the bench. But her pen has stopped writing. It stopped about 3 pages in and hasn't started up again. One of the journalists in the back row has shut his laptop. Not to be polite, not on purpose. He closed it the way you do when your hands stop working because your brain has sent all of its resources to just listening. Kody Brown is looking at the table in front of him. He looks like a man who just heard something for the first time that he was told about years ago. He is confused because he realizes that knowing something and understanding it are two very different things. He read this note. He said he did. 3 days later, he texted her and asked what was for dinner. But now, in this room, with Christine's voice still in the air and 26 strangers looking at his face, he hears it differently. Perhaps for the first time. It might be too late. Christine looks away from the letter on the railing. She doesn't look at Kody. She looks at Judge Dawson and sees that he is steady, clear, and done. I said what I had to say. In this space. Out loud. At last. And there won't be another text message after this one. The email is like some sentences that don't fade or dissolve, but just hang there. Like smoke that has nowhere to go, it settles into the room. Say it was for the kids' school. She will believe that. Sandra Vance doesn't say it again. She doesn't have to. She just lowers the paper, takes a small step back from the witness stand, and lets the room do the work for her. Because rooms do work like this. They keep things. They show things back. Everyone sitting in the gallery benches just became a mirror, and Robyn Brown is seeing her own reflection in all of them at once. In the journalist with the open notebook, in the 2 women from the gallery who stopped whispering as soon as the email was read, and in the paralegal at Coles's table, who is very carefully not looking up. Robyn's hands are still on her lap. She taught herself to keep them folded. Still hands look calm. Hands that are still look innocent. She knows this because she has been watched for years. On camera, in confessionals, and in the unique fishbowl life of a family that let the world watch, and then spent years controlling what the world could see. But the hands can only do so much. Her breath has changed. Now it's a little bit faster. A little less deep. The way you breathe when your body knows something your mind won't let go of. The carefully crafted version of Robyn Brown, the soft-spoken, always hurt, and always misunderstood fourth wife, is still sitting in that witness box. But the room stopped believing in her about 40 seconds ago. The recommendation is now in the record. Forever. Typed. Real. Christine Brown has primary physical custody. Kody Brown's structured visitation. 6 sessions with a 12-year-old girl who makes cards she doesn't know when she'll be able to give them. This is what came out of it. Not a deal. Not a fair arrangement that the family always tried to make, with everything split evenly between them. Time, attention, holidays, and the idea of equality. A clear conclusion. A way to go. The court made this choice because the child, who was safe in a psychologist's office with no cameras, no audience, and no family story to protect, told the truth about what her life was really like. Something is written down by Judge Dawson. Longhand. Think about it. For a few seconds, the only sound in the room is the scratching of her pen, which is somehow the loudest thing anyone has heard all week. Christine's eyes are dry at the plaintiff's table. She used all of that before, in the letter, in the reading, in the private hotel rooms at 3 a.m., and in the long months before she filed. She dealt with the grief in small steps, like you have to do when the grief is too big to handle all at once. And now that she's sitting here and hearing a stranger say in clinical terms what she already knew in her bones, she doesn't cry. She just shakes her head. A small private nod. Not for the show. Not for the judge. Not even for Sandra Vance, who was sitting next to her. For real. Who was waiting? Who made the cards in the first place? Who kept coming back even though they knew they would be let down? She is a lot like her mother. And Christine is just starting to understand how painful and beautiful that is.